Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios around the flights of the round table, it's my good friend, Matt.
Hey, what's up, Mark? You doing all right?
Man, you're in the wrong place, Matt. I'm like,
I know,
weird.
You're looking for me.
You're the wrong color mic cord and everything. That just took me 20 minutes to figure out.
I'm the wrong everything for you.
You are, Matt.
I'll
That's
never
okay.
be right.
I'm glad you're here. We got Chad here, too.
We do. This is a weird triangle of love going on right now.
I've seen weirder.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Man, Chad, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good. It's funny. I was just telling Matt yesterday, like, I was like, it doesn't have to be Mark and Matt time, but I was like, I'd love to just have like a hangout session sometime.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I need a day where, we all just kick it. I was like, and if we want to record, we can record, and here we are.
Well, I appreciate it because Matt texted me, and man, this new job, I love my new job. If anybody I work with is listening. But
Who are you trying to convince?
damn, dude. I mean, it's a change of pace. It's just, I'm not used to being out. I still work from home, but
Yeah.
I'm out visiting with our clients all the time, which is great because I love doing that, but there's just a lot more work. And once you get in a routine for 7 years, I've worked from home and just kind of had a routine and now it's like all different. So I'm trying to balance real life with the bourbon life and figure it out. So booking shows and everything else has kind of been difficult, So Matt, I feel bad because he messages me. He's like, what's our schedule for this week? And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you tell me, Matt? What are we doing? So yesterday he was like, what do you want to do? You want to record? I'm like, yeah, man, let's just you and me record.
Yeah, you got to put something down here. It's been a little bit since we've had just a nice little.
It has been, but then you offered
BS sesh.
You said that you talked to Chad, and I was like, yeah, man, we could just all do that. Do the three guys in a bottle.
That's right. 3 guys in a bottle.
That sounds awful. Don't search
Better
that.
than 3 guys on a bottle.
Don't search that on YouTube or Google. Any guys, if you're out there, please.
Yeah,
don't.
do not.
I would not
Google
take the
that.
time to Google search that because God only knows.
At least go incognito.
What you get on your VPN or something, or use DuckDuckGo because it could result in some anyway. But so we're the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by us.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about that. And we may talk about that a little bit later too.
That's right. We've never lost a guest, but we have lost all of our sponsors.
We've lost sponsors. I guess they listened to too many crew episodes last year, but no, we still have some of our sponsors and still working, talking with some people. But yeah, man, it's been a weird year so far. I mean, it really has been, but we can talk a little bit more about that. But we're still here, man. We're still plugging along and bringing you shows. The best that we can. When I get the time to book shows, we do that. But I'm glad you guys are here tonight, man. I needed this as well. It's just nice to be able to hang out with you guys and spend some time. But we got some things. You guys brought stuff. I mean, nothing I even had to provide. I had some bottles on the table. I think that was actually from our last episode. I never moved
Those have been sitting there for 3 or 4 months.
Matt.
Like, as long as the shelves have been sitting back here that I keep hearing are going to go up in the basement.
The shelves that
I'm
are
pretty
gonna
sure
go.
that's a 2018 release. No.
Oh, yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah, so anyway,
shelves.
but you guys brought stuff to drink, so I'm appreciative of that. Matt, you brought what we were drinking on the first round, so you want to tell everybody what you brought?
Yeah, I guess I'm leading it off here. I think kind of the loose theme is whiskey, not bourbon tonight.
Yeah,
right.
It is not the bourbon. It is the
non-bourbon life.
Yeah.
It's my life right now. It's like the non-bourbon life,
The
man.
whiskey life.
The adjustment to non-bourbon. Yeah, goodness gracious.
This is a bottle I picked up in New York when I was up there a couple of years ago from High Peaks Distilling, LLC in St. George, New York. This is the Cloudsplitter Straight Single Malt Whiskey. This is New York's most award-winning malt whiskey. 5 years, aged in oak, 46% alcohol by volume, 92 proof.
Good job, man.
Hey, thanks.
He said it slow so he could do the math in
I
his
know
head.
he was doing the math as he was saying it, but
we got to do that next time.
But he got it. That's awesome.
Carry the 8. Anyway, just what it says here on the bottle, because I don't know too much about this. I just opened it recently. But Cloudsplitter, straight single malt whiskey. Cloudsplitter is a straight single malt whiskey created by distillers with years of experience in mastering the arts of brewing malt. Our premium whiskey adheres to the Scottish tradition of distilling refined cuts of heated malts in copper stills. This process creates a wispy smokiness and a complex malty flavor. Aged in European oak sherry barrels, adding a slight sweetness to the complexity. A mellow entry and a long, warm finish makes this whiskey a favorite.
Nice. And where'd you get that again?
This would be from New York.
But did you actually buy it?
I did actually buy it.
In New York?
In New York.
Okay.
I've gone up to New York a couple times now for races. I've been in the Lake Placid area.
Oh, right.
And I love going up there because when we get out of Kentucky, we're so spoiled by all the large distilleries and great products that it seems almost unfeasible for small distilleries to exist with their products. But you go into other states, like upstate New York has a lot of really great small little distilleries that are just operating on little pot stills, I assume, putting out local stuff just around there. This probably is a great example of it. I've picked up a couple others from small New York distilleries as well that I don't know if I had ever heard of. I think probably can't get them outside of New York, but just great people doing great stuff at like a small local level that we're absolutely missing out on because we're so spoiled here. And that's one of the great things I find in traveling and going different places is looking for some interesting smaller or lesser known products.
You're pretty good about that, Matt. I mean, you bring stuff to share with us, and we're all like, "What? What's that? Where'd you get that?"
Yeah, I travel somewhere, and I'm like, "All right, I do like this place. It's the only place I'm going to go. Because if I go somewhere else and I might not like it, then I'll be upset." So, go to Washington, only go to Woodinville. I've never been to Copper Fox, never been to anywhere else. I know I like Woodinville. I'm gonna stick with it.
At least you guys travel.
You go to Nashville every once in a while.
I go to Nashville. I go to Beam.
Yeah. Well, you got to pick up your mail. Now that your address has been forwarded from Liquor Barn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Unfortunately, no. I mean, we still love Liquor Barn, man, and we miss them. Hopefully next year things will turn around and be a little different, but we'll continue to work with it. We'll continue to do things with Liquor Barn this year and probably get some of the guys back on the show again. But they've been a great sponsor, so we've appreciated that for sure to have them, and they've afforded us the opportunity to do a lot of fun shows and a lot of good times, especially the releases, the Pappy raffles and stuff that we've been able to do up there. Been a lot of fun for sure. So, guys, on the nose on this one, Chad, what do you pick up on this?
So, I put it down because I picked it up 2 or 3 times. And every time I pick it up, it's a little bit different.
I'm with you.
You do get some of that like straw hay, grain in there. Mm-hmm. Good toffee, caramel notes, a little bit of fruit, like nuttiness, like this fruit cake medley without so much of the cake, but just more of the dried fruits and the nuts and honey. Very pleasant nose. It's 92 proof, so not going to be sharp, but at 5 years, I kind of expect the grain to punch really hard and be maybe a little stringent, but pleasant nose. I enjoy it.
Yeah. It is. It's very light to me. There's not a lot of course, I'm, used to drinking bourbon and getting those kind of heavier notes and things, but it obviously knows it's light. It is light as well for a 5-year-old. What kind of barrels? I mean, is this oak?
Sherry.
Sherry barrels.
European oak sherry barrel.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it is still kind of light. But yeah, I like it. You talk about the fruit notes that come through. I like that. Pick that up. A little of that honey that you talked about as well, Chad. I don't really pick up much else, Yeah. So, Matt, what about you, man?
I'm with Chad that every time I picked it up, it changed a little bit. When I first poured it and really went into it at first, it was really bright, really crisp. It almost reminded me of like straight malted rye. At first, just like kind of a malty, but really bright, herbal, sharp green, like minty note.
Yeah.
But it really started to fade away as it sat in the glass, swirled it a little more. And those cereal notes, it's like honey graham crackers, honey Chex, the cereal, that malt really comes through, the roasted toffee, roasted notes. It has just like that, like roasted grain, like kind of like roasted or toasted nuts
Yeah.
note on it. A little funky, some like hay, straw, kind of, barnyard
stuff. Yeah.
funk in there. I think more than likely this would come off a pot still.
Pot still.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
It's got those nice notes to it that are just kind of weird, funky, unique. Like, Just like a little bit of cherry cough syrup at the end of the
Where's
nose.
Philip when you need him?
I was going to say,
know.
Philip would love this.
I know.
Even though it's a single malt, he'd love it. So single malts became official, right?
They did.
I don't think
Yeah.
we didn't talk about. We haven't done it. Did we?
I
do
think-
a show?
I
don't
think
remember. It was like January 19th, wasn't it?
I think it like either a couple days or like the day before of or a couple days after, it just became like
Official.
Like official. Here are the standards for that.
That was I think it was January 19th was the official.
Yeah, that
day.
was driven big by Old Line in Baltimore.
Yeah. Oh,
Mark McLaughlin
yeah.
was one of the guys really
Driving
the standards for the American single malt.
Yeah. Which is really
category.
cool. I mean, I'm glad that we got that. So that's something new, kind of new and exciting, right? And I think we're seeing brands kind of jump into that. I mean, was all even the big brands because we had the Claremont Steep from Beam that came out, and then Bullet put out there.
Yep, their American single malt.
Yeah. So even the larger brands seem like they've gotten on board somewhat with that. So I mean, I don't drink a lot of single malts, or Scotch for that matter. But I don't know. What are you guys seeing? Because you guys are more in tune with the industry. Are you seeing more coming out?
I would say yes. I like to see them too.
Yeah.
I think having now standards set for the category is good and bad. It's good, of course, to have standards, but at the same time, there's now a little bit more of a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
If you have an American single malt and you want to be a part of that category, now you have to play within these standards, or else you're just like, I think, malted whiskey. I think you can't use that American single malt designation, which, tomato, if you use it or not. But it's nice. I enjoy it. I think it really opens up a lot of different avenues that we can go with whiskey, or distillers, producers can go. You don't just have to do 51 corn, new charred oak. Like, there's more experimentation that can go on, even though you are just using that one single grain, that malted barley. But like, I think you can play with cooperage more. Is that right, Chad?
Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now, and I'll give a quick rundown from the TTB website itself. So on ttb.gov, the final ruling published on December 18th, 2024 goes into effect January 19th, 2025. There is a five-year transitional period. Good job on getting that right, Mark.
Thank you.
This is verbatim. The adopted criteria for American single malt whiskey specify that a product be a type of whiskey that is mash distilled, aged in the United States, is distilled entirely at one U.S. distillery. So similar to a bottle and bond or anything, but basically saying that you can't distill it, take that new make, redistill it somewhere else. Is distilled at a proof of 160 or less, and is distilled from a fermented mash of 100% malted barley stored in oak barrels used uncharred new or charred new, with a max capacity of 700 liters, and is bottled at not less than 80 proof. In addition, the criteria for this allow for the use of caramel coloring as long as it is disclosed on the product label. So if you use food coloring in a label, you have until basically 2030 to get all your shit together. And they have to disclose that.
Okay.
The regulation will also allow for the use of the term straight for an American single malt whiskey that is aged for at least 2 years. So similar to a rye or a bourbon.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I think that's great, right?
Yeah. A new category of whiskey for America, right? So
set in stone. Because before, single malt was just kind of like, we know, people be like, we know what the rules are based on Irish tradition or a Scottish tradition or Japanese, but then they don't have to disclose, they never had to disclose how long anything was aged, or, if it was, it might be super dark looking and drink like water because they put a ton of food coloring in it. But now it's nice because they're going to hold these people accountable, which it makes sense. This is something that a lot of these big distilleries, seeing Beam do that. I don't think we'll ever see like Turkey do that, but Buffalo Trace is doing it. Heaven Hill's done it already. Well, they've done Kentucky whiskey. Well, they've done a single malt, but I think we'll see more of it from the big guys. Like, I'd be interested in seeing like Bardstown Bourbon Company putting out a single malt if they haven't already. Like, have one distilled, because New Riff's had single malt laid down for
years,
8 years, 9 years. So I mean, it's a category people have been looking forward to, and I think it'll grow because bourbon's not for everybody, and it should be, but it's not. So people who really want to, fit in but have an American product that from a distillery they can believe in, now they have the ability to do that because it's set in stone.
So I'm curious, guys, and again, I think you guys have your fingers on the pulse of the market better than I do, just in the conversations and the work you guys do. But do you think Scotch drinkers, obviously they're drinking single malt Scotch. Now we have American single malt. Have you guys talked to people that are typical Scotch drinkers and what their reaction or their thoughts are with regard to American single malt in comparison to the Scotch?
Yeah. In a small group of maybe 5 people that I know who drink a lot of Scotch, they're all also primarily, it's pretty much a 50-50 toss-up on if they're drinking Scotch or bourbon. A couple of them are really big fans of American single malt, like Westland and that kind of stuff. Really, really big into those guys because they're using new charred oak or first fill barrels, stuff to really put some age and depth into this. And a couple of them really don't like that as well because it's not traditional for they drink Scotch because they want that lighter, softer.
Yeah.
To them, it's more well-developed, which, I mean, that's to everyone has their own opinion, but it's a more well-developed profile going into a used barrel, aging longer, but
yeah,
it's kind of 50-50 with the guys I know.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, what about you? Have you had
I agree with
conversation?
Chad. Same thing. I've heard some, and to me, just looking at, I don't drink a lot of Scotch.
But you're a single malt guy.
I am. I do love American single malt, and what I think I like a lot about American single malt is I don't like a ton of Scotch. I don't like peaty, smoky, mineral tasting Scotch whiskey, which a lot of people really do. And I've heard a lot of people that really like that type of Scotch. Not as big a fan of the American single malt category, and that's fine. But for someone like me that doesn't really care too much for a lot of Scotch that's on the market, I think the American single malt is a great segue to be more curious about trying Scotch. There are a lot of really great American single malts that drink like good lowland Scotches.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so maybe a lowland or a highland where you're not getting that peatiness and the
lowland's like a light smoke, but they're usually a lot more finished as far as with the sherry barrels or something. So you're getting a lot more of the barrel influence. The smoke is just there to add a little bit, but they're not over. Because I hate peated anything.
Yeah,
hate it.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that was it Lagavulin and
Octomore
and all that. Yeah, man, people are nuts about it. Man, if you can use the word Band-Aid as a descriptor of your whiskey, then no, or burnt rubber, or what, I have no desire to be a part of that. So forget it, man.
But it's a good. I think it's a great gateway. Again, I don't. Sorry to use myself as an example, but for me to be more curious about what's going on in the Scotch market, because before it was just something I completely written off because I thought most and all Scotches just tasted like garden hose and not that great.
Sure.
But this, especially on this bottle itself, it says, it shows our premium whiskey adheres to the Scottish tradition of distilling refined cuts of heated malts and copper stills. So they already, throw a little homage to Scottish whiskey right there. And so it makes me curious. And there are similarities as we get into the palate of this that I think there are some similarities to this and some Scotches that I've had that I've enjoyed.
Well, speaking of which, Matt, would you like to just jump in on the
good segue.
Palate? You created your own ride that segue, man. You're up there.
Go off the cliff, man.
Yeah, take it right off that Cloudsplitter. It's got a nice. So this, to me, really has a nice palate that I think reminds me of some of the Scotches I've enjoyed. It's really bold and cinnamon spicy right up front, and really wakens and brings the palate to life without burning it out. Like you drink a high proof or a hyper aged bourbon, something super old. Sometimes you can just it just burns out your palate right from the start. This to me really wakens it up, gets everything primed and ready with that cinnamon, that heat, and then it kind of leads into some of those funkier Scotchy notes that malted barley. The malt is really there. It's that toffee, that roast coffee, dark cocoa, almost like a burnt sugar, like touch past like brulee to the point of like, done burned the caramel.
Done burned it.
Yeah.
Oops.
But then like a nice grainy finish.
Yeah.
I think it shows well the barley in this, kind of good cereal notes.
Yep.
Before leading to like kind of the fruitier finish. I think those sherry barrels do a good job at the very finish of the palate as well, kind of rounding out, bringing some fruit and sort of taming down that grain, that distilled grain note.
Yeah, I agree. Chad, what do you think?
I agree. I'm glad I'm not the only one who got the spice up front, because I'm like, man, this is like,
I know,
it's
dude.
not high proof.
I know. I was like,
so it's either got to be,
Yeah.
it's either really tannic, and after a few sips, the baking spice, the cinnamon's a really good one, because it's like it is just like a cinnamon tea almost, like it's just water and cinnamon. Really goes into that honey graham cereal grain Matt was talking about on the nose. I got a lot of that on the palate. Oddly enough, it's kind of like corn flaky, and there's no corn in it, but it's just like that basic cereal profile. A lot of honey. Still got a little bit of nuttiness on it. And I really enjoyed it. It does remind me a lot of Scotch. Like, I would not guess this to be an American single malt, just because it is such a, I don't want to say basic profile, but it really, like, to someone who wants to get into Scotch, this is a great indicator. So like what they're doing right now, if you're like, oh, I don't want to go drop $100 on what, this Macallan that everyone says is great, and it might be good at 80 proof, I'd say, hey, instead of going for that, 8-year, 10-year Macallan, this 5-year for $50, or I don't know how much it costs.
I'm going to guess 50 to 60.
This 5-year from New York is a great starter, really good profile. I mean, it's got 4 to 5 big notes you really want in a baseline single malt whiskey. Not something that I personally myself would ever go out and purchase or buy, but I don't think it's bad. I do think it's good for a single malt. There's nothing repulsive about it. It's got a nice little touch of smoke to it. No Band-Aid, no brine, but just a little bit of like a charred oak. So, no, I think it's pleasant.
yeah, I agree. And I'm not a big single malt or Scotch guy, but this one's really nice. I really like it. Matt, you're right. When I took my first sip, it was like, or Chad, you said it as well. It was like, wow. I mean, it was like, what proof was it? It had to stop and think. It's only 92 proof, but that spiciness just hit really fast. Then a couple sips later, that got a little more subdued. But then the cereal grains come out, like you said, Matt, the malted barley, and then that sherry, those little light fruity notes in the finish really shine through. And it's light, after you get past that initial like spiciness, at first. After that, it's just really, really nice, man.
It's kind of like your first cigarette. The first time, you're like, why am I doing this? And after, you're like, oh, this is good.
Yes, I like that, man. Yeah.
I see why people do this.
Good job, Matt. Thanks for bringing it to share with us, man.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk on the Bourbon Life we're going to enjoy American single malts? Wow. What's this world coming to? Guys, we're at the end of round 1. We did a good job. We made it through.
Woo. One down.
Yeah. I say we take a quick break, get a word from the one sponsor we do have.
I'm leaving. So, see you guys.
Oh, man. All right. Everybody sit tight. We'll be back with more with Chad and Matt in just a minute.
Three Chords line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios, around the flights of the round table, my good friends, Chad.
Hey, it's Triangle.
And Matt.
Hey, Mark, Chad. What's up, fellas?
Living the dream, man.
Yeah.
Living the Bourbon Life, finally. No more real life.
It ends today.
I'm done.
We're back, baby.
It ended at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, how long till you retire?
Huh?
Yeah.
Matt, it's going to be a long time. I'm probably going to be at least another 10 years.
You pass that cycle and you got to go back around again, right? Like, isn't that how it works?
Yeah, something like that. No, I think I'm probably going to be in, because I'm 50. How old am I? 56? Yeah. I'm probably going to be 65, 66 before I give it up.
Good for you.
Yeah, you think?
Right.
You're
We'll
56, you're going to give it up, and you're 55 or 56? You should be done.
65 or 66. Shut up. Man, shut up. Hey, we're the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by us. by me, like Ricky Bobby. We're gonna have a cougar. We're gonna have a cougar on the podcast as our logo.
I already had one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're sponsored by our good friends Dan Harrison and his friends at.
Hot damn it! Yeah, screw money. Let's get a few cases of beer in here a month.
Oh yeah, I need to talk to DH about that, man. Country boy, love those guys.
Right around the corner from where I work.
Whew. Yeah, I always enjoy a good cougar bait.
Yeah, I'd love to hear him be like, remember that one time you told me that this is a
Mark,
bad idea?
Talking about business decisions, remember?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no wonder you don't have any sponsors, man. You don't know anything about business. Tried to talk him out of starting Country Boy. Look at that. I'm glad he didn't listen to me because it's my favorite beer now. So, goodness gracious. We're having a good time tonight. The three of us hanging out, man. Just one of those times you just kind of need that, right? So, it's good. I'm glad you guys suggested it. Thanks so much. We can't do this every week, though. Or we could. Maybe just stop booking guests.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about this week? Who cares?
Who cares? We're just going to sit around and drink. Speaking of drinking, though, Chad, you brought this one. What do you?
I did.
Do you have the bottle? Okay.
Hailing from Memphis, Tennessee, this is the Huling Station Trolley Stop Series. It's a wheat whiskey, aged 9 years. It was actually distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, for Huling Station. So distilled in Indiana at MGP, and then aged in Tennessee. So this is the Madison Avenue line. It is 83% wheat, 12% corn, 5% malted barley. And the reason it's called the Madison Avenue line as part of the Trolley Stop series is Orleans Street. Another prominent stop is, wait, this is a different, no, it is. Is this Orleans Street?
No, this is Madison.
Hold on, what's on the back? Doesn't say. I'm going from their website, but everything matches right now. Oh, it does say Orleans Street right there on the bottom. If I
It does?
Yeah.
How many different names it got on there, man?
Several.
All
Orleans
right.
Street.
It's like a monopoly board.
Man.
Another prominent stop is synonymous with the rich musical heritage of Memphis. The street was a hotbed of musical innovation, nurturing the birth of various genres, including blues, soul, and rock and roll. Countless legendary musicians honed their craft on Orleans Street, leaving an indelible mark on the city's cultural fabric. I'm not going to read any tasting notes, but yeah, so I just named it after a historic spot. And there's a 9-year bourbon, which is also really good. And then this, I thought it was going to be this whole series. I guess they stopped at 2. I don't know if they're going to do more, but
Gotcha.
95 proof, 83% wheat, 12 corn, 5 malted barley. Mark, what do you get on the nose?
What was it say? When did that come out?
Year and a half ago.
Okay, so Alex was still there. Alex was still
so.
there when that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was either early last year or like towards the end of 23.
yeah. I get like very rich, like rich fruit, brown sugar almost, kind of a dark sugar type of an aroma, a nice dark fruit aroma as well. Almost like a dark cherry, something like that. And those sometimes wheat comes across like a wheated bourbon. Sometimes I almost get like a strawberry aroma as well. And I'm kind of getting whiffs of that with that dark fruit. So it's like kind of weird that I'm getting that the dark brown sugar type of an aroma. Has almost like a bourbon type of an aroma to me. You know, when I first nosed it, because I was like, wait a second, this is a wheat whiskey color on it as well. Very bourbon-esque, different than what we had the first round, obviously.
Yeah, new charred oak, I'm assuming. Wheat whiskey doesn't have to be aged in new charred oak, but I'm assuming this is new char. So.
Yeah,
I would say based on the color,
yeah.
9 years. That is a while, but even proof down to what, 98?
95.
95?
Yeah. Matt, what about you? What do you pick up on the nose, man?
It's a lot of the notes that you picked up, Mark, I'm getting as well. There's a sour cherry marmalade note for me. Like definitely the cherries there, but it's kind of sour. There's a sweetness.
Not to interrupt you.
But he's going to interrupt
Not to Kanye
Not
this.
to
Yeah. When you said sour cherry marmalade, it immediately, those sour candy cherry things that you get in like only pharmacies or bad gas stations that they have like 4 of them in there. You know what I'm talking about, the little balls?
No.
There's like cinnamon
I
cherry.
don't know anything about little balls, dude.
I'm trying to place these.
Yeah, I
you're talking
really
about.
don't. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like old people candy. Mark should know all about them. It's like you go to the gas station, they've got like 4 Smarties in a bag that they sell for $2, and then it's like root beer candies and that kind of shit.
Okay.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking like the little ones that look like little strawberries?
No.
the
I'm
wrapper?
talking about the cherry, like they're cherry flavored. They're little sour cherry balls, and they're just red balls that are sour cherry.
No idea, dude.
Oh my God.
Sorry, we're missing out, man.
You weren't pouring enough.
We're missing out.
But you think it smells like those?
Yes, when you said sour cherry, it like struck, like it brought that note out to me. So, all right.
Back to is this something from childhood? Are we talking childhood notes? Okay.
Back to you, Matt.
Matt, anything
Kind
else?
of bread crust,
Yeah.
like crusted bread, almost like kind of crazy, but almost smells like potato pancake.
Oh,
Like hash brown kind of.
Yeah.
No, like it has sort of like breakfast diner type
it does.
note to me. Like there's like some toast going on. There's that sour
This is the
cherry.
Waffle House blend.
It kind of, it kind of does.
it's
It,
scattered,
like,
you know, you
smothered.
got cigarette ash in there, bacon
Scattered,
grease,
covered.
You know, you got a little
chunked.
bit of like,
It's diced.
Hairspray.
disgruntled chef.
yeah,
Which I don't, man, if I'm not getting yelled at when I walk into a Waffle House,
you're leaving. If they don't yell it when you walk in, it's not good enough.
no, it's suspect.
Chad, what about you? Anything else other than your sour balls?
Sour balls, for sure. A lot of maple. Whenever he said potato pancake too, that really hit. That's a good note. Tons of, like, everyone always says strawberry on wheat stuff. I always go like a raspberry because it's always a little tart for me.
Yeah.
But nice red raspberry, like jam or jelly. Tons of caramel, brown sugar to piggyback off you. It's a lot of brown sugar, some good oak in there, caramel. It really it noses more like a wheat bourbon for sure. Great nose. Really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Thanks for bringing that, man. That's what's in round one. No, I'm just kidding. Round two. But we were talking a little bit about sponsorship and stuff. We were talking a little bit before we started too. You know, for me, you know, I've been on Instagram since December 2018. Mm-hmm. So it's 6 years, going 7 years now. And obviously seeing changes and seeing, you know, people come and go. And man, when I'm on there now, it just seems, and I don't know, Matt, you're not on there a whole lot, so I don't mean to exclude you
That's fine.
from that part of the conversation, but it just seems like
Matt
there's-
lurks. He likes my photos.
lurks. He'll randomly post stuff or comment on stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it just seems different. I don't know, man. Something about the last few months, it just seems different.
It does seem different. I don't know. It almost seems like the industry has been like doing the slow prep of like, 'cause, I mean, let's face it, not to be like, it's free marketing, blah, 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 blah. But social media is free marketing. You don't have to put money into it. There are reviewers who do ask for money.
Sure.
And people who want that to be a lifestyle. If you want, like, I don't do that. I don't think no one should try to make their life about making an Instagram post getting sponsored for whiskey. I think that's stupid. I'm just going to put that out there. If you want $1,000 for 30 minutes of your time to review a whiskey only for Instagram, that's so dumb. But people do it, and they make a living on it. But we're slowly seeing a change. My stutter is really bad right now. We're slowly seeing a change that brands really just don't give a shit right now. They're pretty much like, I'm getting less and less PR emails, and it's not even like, give me free stuff. It's the only time I see news breaking anymore are from people who have like really been established and had, you know, a journalism career or a website or worked for a magazine or own a magazine. That's really the only people breaking news now. There's not, you don't really you know, used to, if a new product came out, you'd see 1,000 posts the same day.
Sure.
And now it's really just the same 7 or 8 publications putting out big news. And you see people who only post now if they get sent free stuff to review. I think the industry, especially these, you know, and I know a couple people at some marketing or PR companies, they've lost some clients.
Yeah.
They've lost a couple, you know, one of them lost a really big client, and it wasn't because they couldn't do the job. It's just like, hey, we're going to trim it back and go with a cheaper person who's going to, you know, and we're just going to give them one portion of it instead of all of it.
Yeah.
So the industry is kind of seeing like a shift, and I think it's been coming for a while now, and I think they probably started playing a lot of that last year, because I noticed last year a lot of my emails were slowing down a little bit. Now, you know, there's brands who are, you know, I'd reach out to and they'd be like, hey, can you post about this? Hey, sure, absolutely. Is there a way to get a taste of it? And they're like, well, we're not doing samples.
Yeah.
And
I'm seeing more of those too. You know, it's funny because, you know, we've been very fortunate because people do send us stuff, right?
Right.
And very fortunate with the podcast that people will send us stuff and share that. But now I'm getting these emails from PR firms or from brands that just say, hey, this is coming out. Here's a link to high-res images and we're not doing samples, you know? And it's like, oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and news is news. I mean, like there's nothing wrong with like, and I'll share and I'll post them and I'll make. I mean, that'll be my post for the day. Saves me from having to think about something. But as a buyer, because there are people who do, like when I was really into like Whiskey Tube and that kind of stuff on YouTube, there are people who I really believed in. And I wanted their opinion.
Yep.
Even those people are getting affected now, and they're not really getting. They're still getting stuff, but they're not getting as much. It's kind of a weird thing, you know. The industry, everyone talks about the bubble bursting and all this stuff, but I think it's really just like an evening out from pre-COVID. But everyone's expanding, they're creating all these new products, and they're talking about them less. And it's like, you want to talk about why sales are down, you know, not saying send out free stuff equals sales.
Right.
But if you're not going to market with a free market source, then, you know, why are things from 2 years ago still sitting on the shelf? Because there's really been no effort behind it to talk about it. And
yeah. I'm just curious. I mean, do you think, and Matt, I know you don't post a lot, but I mean, I know you get on there every once in a while. Do you feel like just the enthusiasm overall towards bourbon has waned? I mean, you know, there was a slew of bad news, and we talked about some of the negative type of news, and you know, people are saying, oh, the bubbles burst, blah, blah, blah. We're in the hangover now. Yeah, things are changing a little bit. But I'm not saying that people are necessarily drinking less. I mean, I think they are, you know, but it's not like some major dramatic downturn, but it just seems like the enthusiasm and excitement. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the time of year. Maybe it's because there's not much going on right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like at Bourbon Con. I mean, I had a really good time at Bourbon Con.
I had an awesome time at Bourbon Con. But this year, no one brought anything new.
Yeah.
No one, like last year, like almost every brand was like, oh, we're launching this year. Well, that's a lie. There were two brands who were like, this is, you know, we are a distillery who distills stuff, but here's our first source product. There were two companies who did that.
Yeah.
But no, everybody is just like, here's the same stuff you can kind of find on the shelf every day. And it's like, that's great. You know, I've had most of this here, and I love Bourbon Con. I love going to Bourbon Con. I think it's a great time. Love working with them. But yeah, there was the excitement of what's new and hot from any big brand. Like, you know, I give props to Jim Beam for being there. But
sure.
When you're only bringing Knob Creek and Jim Beam and Beam Honey, like, it's kind of hard to get anyone excited about Jim Beam. Like, they should have had a distiller share or
something different, something high end or something.
Yeah, to just draw some attention to. I mean, because those people are paying good money to go to these events. They really want to see what's new and hot, not what they can go get at their local liquor store.
Yeah, so. That's a good point. Matt, what about you? Anything stand out or any?
Do you think that our releases is there anything exciting, like being released?
I mean,
not just like right now, but like I'm asking, like in general, are brands really releasing anything new and exciting, like as a whole?
I don't think brands are driving the hype behind their own releases like they used to. One brand who always does is Michter's. Michter's hypes everything they do.
Sure,
they do a good job at
and
it.
they just put out that
Bomber's, that French oak,
which I think I have a bottle in a box that I did get. So thank you, Michter's, because Michter's is very good about sending bottles, and we usually will taste it on the show as well. I'm sure we probably will sometime in the future. So, but
yeah, I mean, there's really Heaven Hill. I mean, Buffalo Trace will only hype their more expensive stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that the average consumer and even myself and us at the Bourbon Life, we're well connected, I feel.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate to be able to try a lot of really great high-end rare
I agree.
products and releases, but hyping stuff that one is $2,000 a bottle, or two so rare that it's only going to go to people that it's already predestined for.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
What's that press? Who's that press release for?
Yeah. How do I really get excited about that?
That's a good point, Matt.
Other than seeing like, oh, great, there's something else I'll never
see. And I see that.
Never have an opportunity.
I post things on Instagram, you know, and people will be like, oh, there's a bottle I'll never get. I'm like, well, I mean, part of me is like, well, I'm sorry, you know, but part of me is like, I'm thankful that I'm able to get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm happy to share my thoughts about it with people as well. I mean, I can't share the bottle with everybody, obviously.
Right.
But I feel like they're mad at me, almost like they're mad at me because it's like, well, you get a bottle and I don't get one. I'm like,
boo-hoo.
Well, I don't know. It's just kind of weird, man. But I don't know. It just seems like there's this whole, I don't want to say like general malaise, but it's
there is a little stormy cloud right now hanging over, I feel like, bourbon and media and, you know, PR. I mean, I get like what Matt's saying. Everything that comes out can't be the best of the best or the latest and greatest and hype it up. But I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is just time of year, and because the fall is always allocation, Pappy and BTAC season.
Right.
January is always New Year, New You stuff. So we're just now in February, but it does seem weird that there's been like this delay in just stuff, or even last time I was in Liquor Barn, go up to the front counter as I always do, and be like, oh, I haven't heard of like 7 of these brands on this counter right here, and I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll look them up, and then I walked out of the store and I've not thought about them till right now. So it's kind of one of those things where brands are popping up too, but there's no marketing behind it.
And it's all the same stuff, though. Like
it is.
It's all the same product.
But we're gonna run into that now, just like whenever it was all just Indiana stuff. Whenever it was just OKI and Smooth Ambler and Bellmead and all these people just using double-digit Indiana. Now it's all gonna be BBC and Green River.
Yeah.
And it's always been like Barton or 4-Year Heaven Hill. That's always been a thing. So it's just now some of those contracts that people started at the beginning of the pandemic are finally like coming to fruition. But it's kind of hard to look in 2025 at a 4-year-old $125 product sitting on a shelf and be like,
yeah, man,
if you want to sell this, you got to put some marketing efforts in it. Because this ain't it.
No, I agree. And it is weird. You walk in there and there's like brands you don't recognize, and there's like not any. It's like it just doesn't seem like there's big releases, like you were talking about, Matt. It just doesn't seem like it's there. And I know it's a weird time of year. It's February, right? So
tax season, baby.
There's not a lot going on, but man, I don't know. It just seems like the 6-7 years I've been doing this just seems like one of the weirdest couple months that I've ever gone through, man, from the podcast experience, because when we first started, we grew. It took us a long time,
right.
But we've been consistent with sponsors. And this year it's like everybody's just put the brakes on everything. And I'm like, is that a reflection of what they think is going to happen? Is that a reflection of where they are currently?
Or they think they will be.
Right. Are they just anticipating that 2025 is going to look a certain way? And they're like, no, we're just going to wait it out.
Well, all consumer trends point toward a downturn in the market. So I just heard it on the news today. It was reported on a radio station. And I see no problem with brands tightening the belt a little bit.
Sure.
And that sucks
Shut up, Matt.
for us, but at the same time.
I wonder if we can get some USAID money. Can we get a $5 million grant for the promotion and study of America's only native? We should get some money for that, right?
Try.
Damn it. But yeah, it's just kind of weird, no, Matt. I mean, what's going on? And maybe it is. Maybe it's just that we're seeing the downturn and it's starting to happen, and these brands are just kind of bracing for that in some way. But
I just think that's such a negative outlook, though, because
I agree.
I think that it's, and I say this every time this conversation comes up, and like I've been saying, on a crew episode and this episode, everyone just got so accustomed to this is how it is now during the pandemic, and it's like this is a blip. This is a 1 in 100-year event that's going to change the way people operate.
Yeah.
And I think everyone just got so hyper fixated on that, and the company I work for, we do zero marketing. Our marketing budget is zero, and we will never ever market anything.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, because we
could use a new sponsor.
Put it all right back into whiskey. But the thing there is I'm not gonna. I don't send stuff to like everyone who sends a DM. But if it's someone who is a really good track record and really puts out good content or good feedback or something, there might be a bottle or two that shows up in the mail for them. But it's, and I did all that RCLR stuff. Like I packed all those up and we sent those out, and we did some marketing, and it worked, I think. I sent 150 boxes out to people. And
that's right. I never saw mine. I don't know what happened to it.
I don't know where to go.
It grew legs.
Yeah.
All I know is I handed Matt a bottle one day, and there it went.
There it went. Yeah.
You've probably got a bottle of it somewhere around here.
I probably do.
But
I'm sure I do.
I think it worked, but that was one of those things where it was trial and error for us. We wanted to really launch a product, and do I think we've seen the monetary feedback? No. Do I think we've seen the hype feedback? Yes.
Yeah.
But we can't do that for every release.
Yeah.
So then what makes, it just doesn't make it special, and it's a lot of work. But for big distilleries or brands who do that stuff on a regular, there's just been a drop. One brand who has just completely gone, who used to send out an email once a week, is like Barrel Craft.
Oh yeah.
I've not even seen a marketing email.
I used to get bottles from them regularly too, and
they were one of those people who were just they didn't even care if you reviewed it. They're just like, please post, please just talk about it, just mention, like, you know, it can be in parentheses, like just mention the product. And they were a sweetheart of a company, but it's weird whenever they go, because their whole big thing was like, that's what got them popular was influencer marketing. And they kind of really stuck true to that for a while.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens here, guys. We need to jump back and talk about this whiskey, Matt. Let's talk about the palate and the finish on this one. What do you get?
Heavy fruit.
Yeah.
A lot of fruit forward on this one. I think the strawberry that you were talking about, Mark, comes through on the palate. Again, it's not just the fruit. I get a marmalade note, bready afterward. It almost, it's really weird to me for the low malted barley content on this one.
Yeah.
I think the barley really shines through with the wheat pretty heavily. It's got a lot of dark chocolate, a lot of roasted like cocoa nib notes on it that would make me think it has a really higher
malted
barley content in it, but it may just be that playing with the high wheat content. I don't really pick up any of the corn, maybe like a touch on the finish, but nice, good finish on it, a little warm, kind of front palate, doesn't really chase down the back of the palate too much, but it's good. I think I've seen some of this same recipe show up at cask strength in barrel picks. I'd be curious to try one of those.
That's right, yeah. Chad, what about you, man? What do you think?
I echo quite a bit of what Matt said. I got strawberry, the bright red berry notes, and chocolate. I was thinking like a chocolate covered strawberry on there. Tons of bread, like toasted bread. I get the little bit of that smoky, higher malt note that he was talking about as well. Good brown sugar, caramel, toffee, your standard American like charred whiskey notes. I think it's really good. My only fault is mid palate. It kind of drops off, but comes back on the finish. I think the finish is decent, not super long, but a lot of flavor there. Not a ton of spice, but 95 proof. It drinks a little big, a little higher proof than what it is. But I think it's just because it's got a lot of tannins to me, so a lot of darkness is in there.
Yeah. You know, the good thing is with the tannins, you know, for me, because I just don't like overly tannic, so it's not too drying to me, but there is some dryness to it. The first sip, I got like this overwhelming flavor of clove.
I can see that. Yeah,
it was just like
I just finished my glass off, and I was thinking clove. Like,
man, it was like, and I hate clove, but
I used to smoke clove cigarettes. So like, I don't like clove now.
Yeah,
like I only liked it when I smoked the cigarettes. But
I like that smell.
But it's funny because I got the hint of it.
John
and then,
Black, baby.
I got the hint, and then it disappeared. But then it lingered just slightly, so it blended well with all the other flavors, so it wasn't overwhelming. But that was the first initial note when I took this first sip. It was like clove, oh God. But then it kind of like settled down. But yeah, all the other notes, everything you guys pointed out, obviously can't add much to that. So, but overall, I really like this, man. Very nice.
I couldn't tell you the price on it because speaking of the conversation we had, old Dominic sent me that bottle for the purpose of a review.
Wow, very nice of them. Yeah, very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we're at the end of round 2. Let's take a quick break, get a word from our other sponsor. We'll be back with more with I was going to say the Bourbon Life Crew. No, we'll be back with 3 guys in a bottle in just a minute.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their upcoming Valentine's Day dinner on February 14th, featuring a 4-course meal highlighting the best of the kitchen table. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight, live in the Bourbon Life Studios around the flights of the round table, it's my good friends, Matt.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Chad.
How's it going, dudes? What is up?
Living the dream, living the Bourbon Life, man.
That's right.
Having
This morning, this evening, this afternoon, whenever it is you're getting your Bourbon Life
There you go.
podcast fix.
That's right. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
That's right. We may have lost all our sponsors.
Thank you to all of our sponsor.
But we care about our listeners.
We do care about our listeners. That's how we keep doing the show. We do have a couple sponsors. I'm still thrilled about that.
I thought you were going to say a couple listeners.
We do have a couple listeners.
Yeah,
Matt's
at least
parents,
two. I listen to every show.
Matt's parents have tuned us out now. They've given up.
That's right.
That's why the sponsors win. They're like, oh, fuck it.
I know.
Matt's
yeah.
parents are out.
Matt's
We're done.
parents, we're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
They start listening to Bourbon Pursuit.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they're 10-bit people now, actually. They're listening to Perry and Eric, so
Man.
they're like, we like that Twinkie boy.
We need some bobbleheads. That's going to get us listeners. We get the bobbleheads.
Next time I go to, I didn't get those. I was going to say, next time I go to Washington, I'll get us all bobbleheads. Because I would love to make one for Philip. It'd be just a fucking piece of straw in his mouth.
Poor Philip's not here to defend himself.
Nah, as he shouldn't be.
Yeah, we are the Bourbon Life Podcast, presented by all the wonderful bourbon that we drink every week, and by us. Guys, Chad, you brought something else here, and I've got the bottle. I'm doing my best to read it. Barrel Proof, Pride of Indiana.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that is a revived brand.
Why don't you tell us about it, Chad?
Yeah,
Since I've got the bottle.
You do. You hold it and look pretty because you can't read it. The printing on the back does look like the printer has Parkinson's. Though
There's something really wrong with it, man. It's like
it is shaky.
Very bad.
So this is a revived brand that Blake, who owns Sealbox, Drink Sealbox on Instagram. They online DC retailer, and he's been putting out some awesome stuff. Loved everything he's doing. They've had 9-year Kentucky bourbon, 10-year Kentucky bourbon, 10-year double oak Kentucky bourbon, 10-year Indiana bourbon. A lot of stuff. So this is a blend of 10-year Indiana bourbon and 17-year-old Indiana light whiskey. So I think it's 10-year 36%, so 60-36-4 bourbon with 17-year light whiskey. That's 99% corn, 1% malted barley. Blended together, aged and married and bottled down in Jacksonville, Florida, with a cask strength proof of 125.5. And I believe the retail on this was either 130 or 140.
Nice. Well, I'm glad I could tell you guys about this bottle.
You should have just moved your mouth just up and
Thanks,
down.
Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little jib jab up.
Yeah.
Oh, got you right.
Yeah. Matt, what do you pick up? I haven't even nosed it yet.
I haven't either.
What do you get on the nose since I see you nosing it, man?
Really funky notes right up front. A lot of kind of those, we were talking about sort of barn wood notes. To me, this has like that dusty barn wood kind of green grass, almost like mildew in a good way type.
Everybody loves a good mildew.
Just like a natural
on a cheese. Everybody likes a good mildew.
You always have to throw that in because people are like, oh, but you're like, no,
I
in a
get
good
it.
way.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean that in a good way.
Like think of great nature, like good, part of nature, death and decay, so that everything else can grow.
It's like this lake may smell like stagnant water, but over there it smells like leafy greens.
It smells beautiful.
You know.
Anyway,
Matt.
Kind of a funky nose right up front. I think the light whiskey really does a good job being seen on the nose. Of course, light whiskey, 99% corn, 1% malted barley, used cooperage, so
distilled at a higher proof. So.
Yeah. So not new charred oak. So you can get some funkier notes from that. I think the bourbon definitely shines through and punches in some of those older barrel notes as well that you don't often get from a light whiskey. Kind of fruity, kind of bready notes as well. Ironically, I'm not picking up much of the corn. Maybe there's like a touch of corn flake or like subtle cornmeal note on it, but otherwise kind of dominated, I think, by the rye and the barrel notes.
Chad, what about you, man?
Yeah, I was surprised whenever I first cracked this how little corn I got. I expected to get a ton of just like corn flake. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know the ratio exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly the light whiskey. Definitely good barrel char in there. Get a lot of the baking spice from the bourbon itself. Nice fruit. It kind of rides this line of like a funky Four Roses barrel, where it's got this like funky, earthy, but spicy and fruity note to it, which with it being MGP kind of makes sense because Seagram's and shared yeast and all that. But no, it's very dark. This is one that I wish we would have poured up in the last round because every time I've had it, I've let it sit in my glass and it really opens up over time. So I think whenever we revisit the palate, and we could probably go back to the nose and find it'll open up a little bit, but super dark, molasses, leather, tobacco. I don't know. I enjoy it. It is a little pungent though.
Yeah.
I think you're right about it opening up, Chad.
Yeah.
Just from even my first little bits of going in at it, where it had those kind of funky mineral notes. Now those sweeter brown sugars, molasses, caramel, more of the barrel char is coming around in it. Kind of those more typical bourbon notes.
Yeah.
Starting to shine through. Some of the herbal. I always find light whiskey to be a little bit herbal for some reason.
I do too. A lot of people talk about how like sweet and dessert heavy it is, and I usually find it to be earthy and just astringent. So
Beautiful color.
great color.
I would say. But yeah, the dark sugar, the brown sugar, the molasses, all that stuff was jumping out. Dark fruit again to me as well on this one. Very nice though. I mean, I like the nose on this one. I mean, 125.5, I think it comes through and lets you know that it's a high proof.
That's what I was saying. She's a little pungent.
It's not holding back. It's not hiding. I mean, it'll definitely, it won't melt your face, but it'll.
What's funny is the bourbon probably proofed down the light whiskey. I say the light whiskey is probably hazmat, and the bourbon proofed it down.
I was going to say that light whiskey's probably in the 140.
What's your take on light whiskey, Chad?
So
what's your take? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, because we're kind of talking alternatives to bourbon, right?
Yeah, we've not had a single bourbon on tonight's
light
podcast.
whiskey is a great alternative to bourbon that we don't see, that I think got a really bad rap,
So
that I personally hope is coming around.
I think it will, and I mean you see brands like Penelope who are now owned by MGP, but have been pushing. Since they had some 13-year-old and 15 now 17.
Yeah, I just saw that today.
Yeah,
they're
17 year
that
cast strength.
Yeah.
I think they're all single barrels too. But so light whiskey's big thing was the cocktail era, the birth of vodka and gin in the American cocktail world in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Late 60s, 70s, and 80s. Light whiskey became a thing, and the whole point there was, basically you throw light on something like cigarettes, Marlboro Lights or something. It just sounds, Diet Pepsi. Or
Light beer.
Light beer. People think it's healthier. They think it's a good thing. So the whole thing here was you distill it at a high proof, similar to vodka or a neutral grain spirit. You age it in a used barrel, so it's not as big, robust, and you can age it for a longer period of time. You can, where the proof's higher, you can cut it down, get more yield out of it, and hopefully just retain some of those sweet and flavorful barrels coming from the previous whiskey that it was aged in. But it never really took off. So, I mean, there are brands who have built their entire business around light whiskey, like Cat's, I think is Cat's Eye or Cat's something. He only does like light whiskey. Then you got Jay Mattingly and Frankfurt now, who have done pretty much a lot of just only light whiskey blending. But there's actually a lot of stuff on the market. Like All Nations had an American whiskey that was actually like 12-year-old MGP light whiskey for a while before they got, they merged with Garrett County. And that said, I like light whiskey as a blending component. I do not just seek out light whiskey. I've had some single barrels of like some 15 and 16-year-old stuff, and even the first release to Penelope. Those are bottles, or that's a whiskey that grows on me over time. But as a blending component, where it is higher in proof, typically, cask strength's usually between like 130 and 160. Yeah, it's something good to add depth, add proof, and just add some funky complexity in there. I've not used any yet. We will be using, but it'll be Kentucky corn and light whiskey that we'll be doing. But as far as just that goes, I don't love it. You're not just going to see me buying a ton of light whiskey. I don't know if I've just not found the right one for me, but as far as I'm concerned, MGP is really all there is for light whiskey, long term. So, and it just doesn't do it like this though. I've had a couple sips of this before the show, like before I brought the bottle over when I received it, and blending component, I think it's great. But that's kind of where I stop with light whiskey.
So light whiskey's in a used barrel?
Yep.
Yeah.
If you put it in a new barrel, well, it's distilled higher than bourbon, but but the idea there, the whole point of it was like, well, we've got all these used barrels because we're not selling shit, so we don't want to dump more, and whiskey's going to age longer now, so they were putting light whiskey in these used barrels. And
is it always 99.1?
Typically, for the most part, just a little bit of malt in there, just
a hope fermentation.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is we just had
Hammered.
Yeah, we just had Julian Jones from West Fork, and all their bourbon for the Hamer line is 99.1, distilled in Indiana.
Right.
But it is bourbon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it plays within the rules of bourbon.
That's what. See, because I'm sitting here, I'm thinking
new charred oak.
That's why I was asking the question. So the American whiskey, the light whiskey.
Well, light whiskey can be distilled at up to 190 versus bourbon is 160.
160. So you got the distillation difference, and they're not putting it in new charred oak, I'm assuming, for light whiskey, or are they?
No.
At all?
No.
Okay.
No. To me, light whiskey is America's response to Canadian whiskey.
Okay.
Oh man, that's
where, like, Canadian whiskey
Nailed it.
the lines are kind of blurred. Like, what is Canadian whiskey? I don't know.
Right.
It's whiskey in a barrel. What's the barrel? I don't know. A wood vessel. Like, what's the proof? I don't know. Whatever we decide.
Yeah.
And it seemed like America was like,
can you add colors to it and flavors? If we want, and light whiskey's kind of the same way. So
yeah.
Interesting.
So kind of America's response to it. I really quite like it. I've had some good light whiskey. I've had some not good light whiskey, but I think what I really enjoy about it is the wide range of flavors that can come out of it.
Yeah.
For 99% corn, 1% malted barley, of the ones that I've had from MGP in Indiana, just the variety of flavors I think is really unique, especially using that used cooperage.
the old used coupe.
Yeah.
Are they all ex-bourbon barrels? Or does it matter?
I don't know that it matters.
Wood vessel.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying, I mean, do you know?
I
mean, if
no,
what they're
I
using.
don't think it matters.
Tell you.
Okay. But I mean, are they using like sherry? Are they using?
No, I mean, you see places like, well, I mean, that'd be interesting. Like if it's full life, because I mean, there's like Bull's Run will do light whiskey finished in. Mm-hmm. But I would love to know if MGP's been like, oh yeah, we've been sitting on this fucking sherry barrel for like 27 years of light whiskey.
Well,
and
yeah,
no one wants
I mean,
it. Like
that's what I'm wondering. I mean, does it have to be an ex-bourbon barrel?
I don't think.
I don't know.
For all I know, you dump a bunch of old Takai or Sauterne or whatever, and
I think it just has to be a used barrel.
put it
And
right
just
in there.
pop your, as long as it's distilled high and usually 99.1, put it in a whatever barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So who
technically,
knows?
what? You don't even have to barrel it, do you?
Light whiskey? Yeah, it's got to be whiskey. It's got to go in a barrel. Otherwise, it's vodka. It's GNS.
Okay.
I was gonna say, otherwise it's a grain neutral spirit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why it has to go into a barrel. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's really no difference between
Yeah,
grain.
at that point, it would just be a grain neutral spirit,
Yeah,
which
okay,
you would
okay.
add water to, and then you'd create vodka. And botanicals, you'd make gin.
make
So
gin,
you put
yeah,
it in a barrel,
yeah.
and then you've got
Yeah.
light
American whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah.
American light. So is this a growing thing? I mean,
I think
see?
there's been like this underground. Like I got a buddy who I was gonna say I don't want to say his name because I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but he loves light whiskey. And then he would always hit me up when I was at Total. And now that I worked for a Rare Character, he'd always, man, y'all need to buy light. He's like, I love light whiskey. Y'all need to buy light whiskey. I love it. I love it. I love it. And my boss just doesn't. So, and that's where the money is. So if I can't get, he's like, I'm not giving you money to buy light whiskey. I just won't buy any. But Pete, there was this underground love of light whiskey. I think Penelope helped bring it to light because age statements like this on the front of this bottle says aged 10 years on the front. I think where Sealbox screwed up on this is you flip it over to the back, 17 years. If they would have put this whiskey is 10 and 17 years old on this front label, straight American whiskey,
yeah, people would have been
going crazy.
Yep.
I mean, that's 15 stars. They've done a good job at putting all their bourbon, like, this is bourbon aged 8, 9, 10, 15 years on the front of the label.
Gotcha.
And people love that. Like, I think that's the big thing that sells light whiskey is these high double aged numbers on there, and then the proof's always insane. It's gasoline.
Yeah.
So I think it's starting to take off, which is the theme to this episode. Not bourbon life.
The non-bourbon life.
It's hard to say that, but
Not really, but
well, I'm reading the Bourbon Life Podcast, trying to say the non-bourbon
you
life
got Matt
podcast.
step and repeat. Yeah, I get it. I'm just messing with you, dude. Come on.
But all these categories I think are growing, and like Matt said, bourbon's dropped, but rye whiskey's up in sales. Single malt is now it's like slowly cresting. I think we're gonna see Like Heaven Hill just dropped a 19-year wheat whiskey.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're going to see more, we just talked about Penelope doing a 17-year light whiskey. Some of that's what's in this. And I think we'll see more from these categories as things go on, especially this used barrel category.
Yep.
Things where, we can see more uses out of these barrels, because places like France and Japan and sending barrels overseas is kind of expensive now. So it's kind of hard. So if you can't find someone locally who's going to broker that deal and just handle all that shit for you, it's really kind of hard to say like, hey, cognac producer, do you still want our barrels or not, because they can't afford to pay for them. So you're starting to see that pop up. So I think we will see, and especially if the whiskey doesn't come out now in 4 to 5 years, we'll see more of it on the market at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. Guys, let's talk about the palate and finish. Matt, since you just took a drink, I'm going to throw it back to you again, man. So
Yeah, this is the first one that we've had tonight where I actually feel that there's not as much heat on the palate. I think the first two were really punchy, heat-wise. This one is just like warm. You actually feel the proof more than just an outstanding heat flavor.
Yeah,
If that makes
sense.
like any sense. It's more like not front palate burn, not like a mid palate spike. It's just like nice and good and warm, oily the entire way through the palate. Those darker notes, cherry, there's some darker fig, stone fruit notes with it as well. Kind of a coffee, mocha, chocolate note that I pick up coming through on this one. Some vanilla, a little bit of taffy comes rounding out the side of it. Like good cherry, dark graham cracker.
you got them all.
It's nice.
Yeah.
So going back to the nose, did anything change for you on the nose, Matt?
I think I was talking about earlier with Chad, more of those kind of funkier notes
Yeah.
kind of chased out. It's getting a little bit more traditional, I think.
Yeah. Chad, what about you on the palate and the finish?
So I'll go start with the nose.
Or you can go back
first.
to the nose. Whatever.
Totally
Dealer's
agree with Matt. It's more bourbon-esque. It's very much, it's got a little cardamom in there, butterscotch, vanilla, oak. It almost tamed down to be a little more one-dimensional on the nose after it sat for a little bit, but it killed off some of that strong ethanol that it had. As far as the palate goes, it is very much for me, it's a spice-forward bourbon with a really decadent finish. Getting a lot of that rye spice, rye bread, nutmeg, pepper. Then it goes into this nice, good vanilla, like cake battery almost, with a little bit of maple, some brulee sugars in there, and then it rounds out real nicely with just caramel, oak, and tobacco. And I agree with the proof. It's not just heat. There is flavor, but the proof I think helps carry it across. Like this is the first pour I've had tonight where front, mid, and finish are all equal. It's very well balanced. It's complex. It's got some good depth to it. So I think the higher proof on this, like they could have proofed this down to 90, like a lot of people do with these light whiskeys, and killed. I think it would have just ruined this. But cask strength, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I can't add anything, obviously. Nothing else stood out to me. You guys nailed any and every note, plus the ones I missed. But no, I mean, it tastes really good. I'm surprised. I didn't know if I'd like it, but I really do. And now that it's set in a glass, it is like you said, more bourbon-esque.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that, man. So, and the proof, 125, man, 0.5, you can't beat that. To me, I love the higher proof stuff, but it doesn't really hit you like a 125 Elijah Craig barrel proof does.
No, it's funny because it almost like it hits me kind of almost like a Booker's does with like that tobacco and the spice and the tannins on the finish, but it's not like Booker's to me is like super big.
Yeah.
This is not as big, but it's got like where it has those qualities. Like I feel like people who enjoy Booker's and that kind of profile and that richness would really like this kind of stuff.
I think rich is a great way to describe this. Is just extremely rich. So really enjoy it. Well, guys, we're really at the end of everything here. There's not much else to say.
There it is.
There it is.
It's
We're
done.
done.
Hopefully people don't think we were negative this episode.
I don't think we were
I feel like this
negative.
was just more of a lot of like unveiling of like the industry stuff. But
Sure. I don't think it was negative. I think it's a discussion of what's going on in the marketplace, man. So I think there's a lot of people out there that are naysayers and doom and gloom. And I don't think we're like that at all. I mean, I think we're just talking about the realities that we see, and not making, long-term negative predictions based off of that. I mean, I think you said it well when you said, COVID was a once in 100-year thing, and it totally changed everything, and there had to be an adjustment after that. There had to be. And that's what we're seeing. It's not the 1970, 80, downward spiral of bourbon.
No,
so
it's not decades of
no, not at all.
No.
Totally different experience. It's just different. Things are changing. But yeah, I'm still going back to the whole influencer, excitement things. Are people still excited about bourbon? Is it still a thing in terms of influencer stuff and PR and everything? I don't know.
All those people who thought TikTok was going to go away, and they're just screw it. There's all my followers now.
Could be, man.
Or maybe it's because they deleted TikTok whenever they thought it was gone away, and now they can't get back into it. So
they can't get their account back.
If they can't make their content on TikTok, they can't put it on Instagram. So now they're just lost.
Now they're lost. Good point, man. Guys, any final thoughts before we wrap it up, Chad? Anything you want to throw in there?
No. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having Matthew and I. Had a good time. Mm-hmm. Needed this. It was good to just shoot the shit, and hope everyone enjoys it. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. You're always welcome. Matt, what about you, sir?
Oh, to you, our loyal and faithful listener, I hope that this episode was not negative like Chad was saying, but I hope maybe the positive that you all take out of this is to experiment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff coming out there that doesn't say bourbon right on the front of the label. Don't be afraid. We tried some different things tonight. We certainly aren't speaking the gospel of what these are all going to taste like or what they're actually like, but don't be afraid. Try some wheat whiskey. Look for a corn whiskey or a single malt. Don't be afraid of a label that says American whiskey, even if it doesn't say bourbon on it.
Or it'll at least make people do a little bit of research, kind of see you know what the history or what is.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Don't be afraid to experiment. Do your own 3 guys in a bottle. Have your own fun. Do your own thing. Just don't Google search that.
Go on, get the tagline.
Matt, well said. Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for making a Wednesday night so much better than it normally is. Appreciate it. I needed this, man, for sure. So we appreciate you, our listeners, like Matt says, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you get your fix. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate that. We do appreciate our sponsors. I'm just being funny, but we do still have sponsors, so we appreciate them. Couldn't bring you this show without them, so thank you to them, and thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life, and you can join our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. We'd love to have you in there with us. Don't forget our good friend Mike, Big Tex, as Matt calls him, Big Chief, doing the Whiskey Trip podcast, comes out every Tuesday under our umbrella. He's also on Instagram and Facebook as the Whiskey Trip, so be sure to give him a follow and give his podcast a listen. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.